Hey everybody, it's Matthew. Welcome back to the channel. Today I thought we would discuss an interesting topic and something that is always at the forefront of discussion with music these days. We're going to talk about politics in music, and specifically musicians being political with their music and their songs. Now, this can be a hot topic for some people. Some people think that music should always be political, and some people think it shouldn't be at all, which is something that kind of happens a lot in entertainment, regardless of whether or not it's media or it's sports or it's any other type of thing. There are people who usually don't like these things to mix, even though we're talking about people that are all individuals here and have their own opinions and are free to voice them in any manner that they so choose. But a lot of times people just want to see the entertainment for what it is, and they're not interested in political discussions. But when it comes to music, politics is nonetheless an integral part of it, because it is, at the end of the day, a form of self-expression. And of course, when something's on a musician's mind, the first thing they're going to do is probably write a song about it, because it's about expressing things that you may not otherwise express in any other way. And of course, when you're a musician and you can put your art out there for the whole world to see, that can be a rather public display, but it is anyway, even if you're typing on social media and doing something as simple as that, you're still putting it out there anyway. But of course, one of those is just text, and the other one has a specific medium attached to it of using sounds and lyrics to communicate an idea. Now let's get to the meat of this, which is music and politics, which there is a history of music being political. If we go back to very early folk and country music in America, there was quite a bit of political attachment attached to that at times, because it was all working class music intended for the working man. And of course, if that group is in trouble, then you might hear some political overtones in the music. And you heard that especially with artists like Woody Guthrie, who had very strong left-wing politics at a time when it was not very desirable to do that, and yet he felt the need to speak out in his music. And of course, going back to where the origins of most American music, besides like pop, it always goes way back to early African Americans and slaves who were using music as a means to cope and uplift themselves despite a very difficult situation. And you can imagine, as that ties back into the civil rights movements later, there's an inherent political history to most music in America. Because now you have, of course, blues, but you have now rock and metal, rap and R&B, hip hop and folk and country. All of those have kind of that root embedded in them. So it can't really be that surprising that at times people are political in their music. But I mean, there's a history to this. My main reason for bringing this up is a few comments on the Pearl Jam Even Flow short that I posted. Some people were talking about Pearl Jam being political, and that's where we're going to get really specific with what we're talking about. Those who may be unaware may not understand that grunge and music of that area is actually highly political and is some of the most political music that there is. Even going back into the 80s, in the beginning of grunge, there were bands making songs with political statements. And of course, we look specifically at Kurt Cobain. He was very open about his politics, and he was a very feminist individual and was very much about women's rights and those kind of things. And those, of course, come up in his music in some ways, some very overt and direct ways, but they come up nonetheless. But going specifically to Pearl Jam, let's talk about that. 10 was not necessarily a very political album, because I think they were just, making some songs for fun on that album, and it turned out really great. Versus was the next one, which was a better album, but that song has a few songs on it that are political. WMA is the most obvious one, White Male American, and it talks about police brutality. Or Glorified G is a sarcastic commentary on American gun culture at a time when that was not a particularly relevant thing to discuss. We're talking about things like that, and then there's other themes scattered around that. But I mean, Pearl Jam has a history of being political, with songs. That's not anything new. So I don't know why all of a sudden people are concerned about that, even though they've been that way for the entirety of the band pretty much. But I guess that's the polarized time we live in now, because back then you could talk about politics and people were kind of cool with it. You know, they wouldn't go on and say, oh, it's a shame they went political or they ruined their careers. But, you know, people don't go off and say those things about musicians when they were getting political back then. But of course, again, highly polarized time. If you say anything with any slight political context these days, there's going to be a group that will dogpile and attack you for doing that. But I mean, let's go to other bands. Let's talk about Soundgarden, another 90s band there. They were very political and did so very early. Their first EP has a song that's kind of being a little sarcastic about, Christianity and religious themes. There's the Hand of God, right? If you keep going to Louder Than Love, which was their second album, that song is full of social and political commentary on it. Like, one of their biggest single from that album was Hands All Over, which was a very obvious, song about environmentalism and was a protest against, killing the planet. And then there's other songs on that like Power Trip and Big Dumb Sex that comment on certain social things. And, Gun is a song about revolution, basically, is the best way to read what the lyrics are in that. Then you keep going to Bad Motor Finger. New Damage, which is the last track on the album, is a critique of the Iraq War, which a lot of people that generation were not happy with. Of course, Holy Water had social commentary about wanting to be left alone and not have an agenda shoved on you, which is still somewhat of a popular idea today. Jesus Christ poses another social commentary about people posturing and trying to look like a martyr in the public eye when they're really not. So, I mean, that's a more subtle thing, but you could consider that political in certain ways. We go to Super Unknown. That has some more social commentary. If we jump all the way to King Animal, that's also political too. Songs like Non-State Actor and Attrition is directly another song that's critiquing the war in the Middle East and all of those things that were going on at that time as well. If we jump to Stone Temple Pilots, they have a few social and political commentary songs that are scattered throughout their catalog everywhere. And then the most obvious example being Rage Against the Machine, which we know they're very highly political charged songs and lyrics, and they're very direct about their messaging. So they don't leave a whole lot to imagination. You know exactly what those songs are about. And then there were other bands at that time, like a lot of the female-fronted bands like L7 and Veruca Assault. And then Mudhoney is another band, not a female-fronted band, but they're also in that kind of vein, and they have songs that are pretty political. And of course, the female bands have political songs because they're women. There's a lot of issues that women have to deal with that, would obviously get highlighted by those bands. So just highlighting that in the context of grunge, music was pretty highly political, and there was also a lot of social commentary in it at the time. So at times it's a mystery to me why these people, like these bands, suddenly had a point where they were all of a sudden very political when that's always been the norm. You maybe are just looking for it more now because people love to get offended by somebody who has political opinion that is a little bit counter to their own. So maybe that's what's going on there. People are just looking for it. But it goes back to the idea that people are free to express their opinions, and some people like to do it through music. Like I said earlier in the video, music at the end of the day is a form of self-expression for the artist. It is not them making music for the listeners, not for the entertainment of others. That is not where music starts. It starts with the expression of the artist and the things they want to talk about, the ideas they have. And if something is on their mind, then they're going to make a song about it, and it's going to come out there, and you may or may not get the message, but the message is there to be heard. And so politics and music is kind of the way it goes, and people shouldn't be surprised that it happens, and they sure shouldn't be criticizing bands for doing it and be expecting them to not ever have anything political ever, because that's just not how things work. Everybody's human. Everybody's got their concerns. Everybody's got political ideas. And most people communicate those in some form or fashion. Anyway, moral of this discussion is artists are going to be political. You might as well get used to it and not throw a fit or say that they're ruining their career or they are doing something terrible by having a political opinion. That's just the way it goes. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe if you did. Of course, leave a comment down below if you'd like. I imagine there will be some people that may refute what I said on here, but my intent is not to, upset or offend anyone. I'm just laying it out like it is. And don't forget to click the bell so that you get a notification when a new video is out. And I will see you guys next time in another video. Have a good one.